Hello, YouTube. It's been a while. So, I started not to post this. I started not to upload this. I started not to even talk about this, like publicly. But the reason I decided to is I feel like it might help somebody. So that's why I'm doing it. You can tell from the title that this is about my breast reduction going completely and horribly wrong. Okay, I'm gonna try to make this short. I feel like I say that on all my videos and they're never short, but we're gonna always try. Okay, so anyway, today is oh gosh, what is it? Today is November the 7th, 2023. I had my surgery June 15th, 2023. Okay, I was a 38O, which I was bigger than an O because I was coming out of that, but that's the size bra that I had. And I've always been big breasted since like 9th grade. They just kind of started blowing up. I was a D, double D, and my breasts just got bigger and bigger. I've always wanted a breast reduction, and every year it would be something. Like I remember one time I had to have a hernia repair, and just different stuff would come up every year where I couldn't do it, or I just wouldn't. It just never would work out. So this year it worked out. I was like, I'm not working. If summer was coming up and I had everything sorted with my children, I was like, I'm having a breast reduction surgery because my back was always hurting and my pain was getting worse and worse. I just felt like I was carrying big old bags, which I was. Okay. And while I was like nervous about, waking up from anesthesia, of course, and the pain and stuff, I was very excited because this was a long time coming. I mean, like I said, since high school, I've had big breasts. I've always wanted a breast reduction. I'm like, finally, like, I can't believe I'm gonna have small boobs. Like, that's crazy. So it's so crazy. The day before my surgery, I had to be there at like 6:30, 7 o'clock for my surgery. And it was like midnight the night before. I could not go to sleep. I was just so nervous about not waking up. And I was also very nervous about the pain. I felt like I was just scared that I would not be able to get my pain under control. Like the pain would be unbearable because I'm a very mind over matter person. And I was thinking about like they're about to be cutting into my boobs. I refuse. Like I look at probably every single vlog that was on YouTube about breast reductions, but I would not look at any surgical videos because I didn't want that in my mind, like what's happening, because I knew I was going to be too nervous. So anyway, I prayed. I was like, God, please don't let me have no pain. I said, God, just like let me have zero pain. Please let me be surprised by me not having any pain. Let my doctor, everybody be surprised. And I will say I had zero pain. I feel like I should have been a little more thorough in my prayer though. I should have been way more thorough in my prayer. Okay. My children calling me. All right, I'm back. Okay, I was saying, yeah, I should have been more specific in my prayer. I should have been like, God, please let me have a good recovery. Let everything be perfect. I didn't think to say that, but clearly I should have. So anyway, so I had the surgery, and I traveled for the surgery 3 hours from where I live at. Got a hotel. I figured, I would be up there for a week. I got the hotel for a week. And, that I would come back and everything would be good. And I would have to go see the doctor, probably whenever, but it did not go that way at all. I had my surgery the day of. I felt amazing. I even was vlogging. I planned on like vlogging the whole thing and all this, but it just turned into be a disaster. So I didn't do that. But I felt good. I had no pain. No pain. That day of just pretty much kind of slept and ate and stuff like that. So my surgery was on the 15th. I had a post-op that next day, which was that Friday. And then another post-op that following Monday. And when I went in that following Monday, the doctor was like, he said it was like a little spot on my breast that looked concerning to him and to keep an eye on it. It was like a little dark spot. So that was that. So my Epicare instructions were to get a spray bottle and fill it with half water, half peroxide. To take a shower. I took a shower. He told me to take a shower the next day, but I didn't because I wasn't feeling up to it. I felt like that was a little too soon, so I didn't do that. But he told me that all I needed was Aquaphor and like to take a shower, use the soap that they give you, the disinfectant soap, antibacterial soap, should I say. And then when you get out, get yourself dry. He told me to take the spray bottle that had half peroxide, half water, and spray it on my breast and stuff. And then he told me to take the Aquaphor and rub it on, spread it on the incisions, and then put gauze on there. That was all I needed to do. Okay, so I was doing this from day one. So I had my surgery on Thursday the 15th. I think I took my first shower Sunday. And when I took that first shower, oh my gosh, it was rough. Like, I was feeling I feel like I should have waited probably a little bit longer. I felt like I was about to pass out, really. My friend was there helping me. And I was like, oh, I gotta go sit down. I didn't feel good. So I did that. So I checked out of my hotel. I was supposed to check out Tuesday at first, but then I extended it because I was like, I'm not ready. So I thought I would be ready to drive by Wednesday. All right, I think cut off some what's going on. But okay, I checked into my hotel that Wednesday. Yeah. So I had it. Anyway, I extended it basically. And so Wednesday I was supposed to leave. And I thought I was going to be good. I wasn't in pain, but I also had been kind of laying down the whole time. I did go to my friend mom's house a little bit, but when it was time for me to drive, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not ready to drive at all. So I ended up staying at my friend mom's house for 2 days. I went there Wednesday, and then Friday I was like, okay, I think I'm good now to drive. So I went home. No, I didn't go home. This was Friday morning. I took a shower, and I noticed the spot that the doctor was talking about was darker and it looked larger. So I called up there, and they were like, come up to the office real quick. And I went up there, and they were like, yeah. So my doctor was like, okay, so what's going to happen is you're going to have skin loss. He said, this is very normal with large breast reductions. I know this isn't something you want to hear, especially since you traveled, but you're going to have to come back here every single week. And he said basically like your skin is gonna turn dark, and then the skin will come off, and then you'll see a white area, and then once that white stuff comes off, and then you'll see fresh skin, blood, like red or whatever. And then once that heals, then it'll then you'll be good. And he was like, I know this isn't what you want to hear. I was in there bloated, I was crying. I'm like, ugh, complication, just why? So that was that. And I was more bloated about having to come back there than anything else. Like, bro. So he was just like, just keep on doing what you're doing. He had told me that he prescribed me these drops, and he swabbed my breasts, and that was it. He told me to put the drops on it. It was like really eye drops or something, but he said it helps with that. I don't know. It didn't do anything, so we stopped using it. And my doctor was like, I still have yet to leave a review, which I am going to do. I do not like leaving bad reviews. I have probably like 100 reviews that I've left on Google. Maybe 2 of them are bad. I love leaving good reviews. So, but I'm going to leave a review. I started not to, but I'm doing it. The same reason I'm posting this video is so like people will know, because this man was horrible, okay? For one big issue was, so I had to go there every single week. Every week I would go, he would swab me. Every time I would go there, he would tell me, oh, you got this infection, you need to take this medicine. I'm paying for all this medicine, and literally he would call me back either a couple of days later or the next appointment and say, stop that medicine and start this one. I have so many pill bottles around here that are full that I took for like a few days. One time he called me on a Friday and was like, oh, your swab showed this infection. So we sent this prescription into your pharmacy. And so I got it Friday evening. I went and picked up I got the message Friday evening. So I went and picked up the medicine Saturday. And Monday he was telling me to stop taking it. I'm like, this medicine was like $45. Some of these medicines was like $60. One of them was like $800, which I didn't pay. I was like, I'm not paying. That's just no. So they were able to get it down a little bit. But I was like, this medicine is expensive, and you keep having me stop and take this. So long story short, everything he said was going to happen. Everything that he said was going to happen happened. So he started telling me about Polymem. And if I could go do this all over again, I definitely would not have gone to that doctor. But from the very beginning, I probably would have bought Polymem. It's a little expensive, and I brought a lot of it because I feel like it helped me heal faster. But I probably would have bought Polymem and stuff like that, just in honey, medical grade honey, from the very beginning, and I would not have used peroxide. Peroxide was the issue. Okay, so what happened was, once the skin came off and that white part was exposed, he told me, he said, okay, now what you need to do is you need to use peroxide. He said, he always told me, look at what I'm doing. Make sure you see this. He took peroxide and soaked gauze in peroxide. He said you need to soak the gauze in peroxide, squeeze it out, and put it on your breast. And I'm not a doctor, but something about it didn't seem right to me. I think the issue for me was not the peroxide, but it felt like, I was like, well, what if, because I was very concerned about getting an infection. I was like, well, what if the gauze, because he told me to stop using Vaseline gauze. That's what I was using at first. Once I would put Aquaphor stuff on, I was using Vaseline gauze. He said, you don't need to use that anymore. So in my mind, my concern was, if this gauze moves and then my breast touches my bra or something, and some bacteria might be on my bra, then it's going to cause the wound to be just open, and I might be laying down, like move or something, and the wound would just be open. So that was what was the issue I was having with it. So I never did what he told me to do. I came home and I went and ordered some hydrocolloid pads. And the hydrocolloid pads were working fine. I was going to every week. He was like, oh, this is working well. You're doing good. The peroxide is working. And so after a couple of weeks, I told him, I was like, I don't want to lie to you because you're my doctor, but I never used the peroxide. I've been using these hydrocolloid pads. And he was like, well, he said, I don't usually recommend that to patients because they're expensive and most people can't afford it. But if it's working, keep doing it. And I was like, well, you should give people the option. Like, you don't know what people can afford. You got me paying for all this stupid medicine that I don't need. Or whatever. Of course, I didn't say that to him, but that's what I was thinking. So that was that. So I'm going to see him every week, pretty much for 5 seconds, paying all this gas. I got a rental for the surgeries. Was in this rental for months. Like I tell you, it was a time, okay? Every week I said I was going to take the rental back, but then I was like, well, I might as well just keep it since I got to drive out of here. Whew, it was a lot. So what ended up happening that made it hit the fan? Okay, so this is what happened. So I had an appointment on a Monday, and when I left home, I had, like, sometimes I would go there and I would just spend the night. Like, I would get a hotel because I didn't feel like driving back. That's 6 hours out of my day. So this day I left. My appointment was pretty early, and so I had every intention on coming back home. So I just left the house without anything, like personal care items and stuff. So I went to the doctor, got out there, and I was like, I don't feel like driving home. I'm going to just get me a room. So I was like, oh, snap, I don't have any hydrocolloid pads. And you can't really find hydrocolloid pads like that. Like in Walmart and stuff, they only have the Band-Aids. So I was like, well, I'm going to just do what my doctor told me to do until I go home. So I went to Walmart, got me some peroxide, got me some gauze, some gloves, everything that I needed. And I was like, boom, got to the hotel, did what he told me to do. I soaked the pads, the gauze in the peroxide, put it on. I got some little tape, skin tape or whatever, to tape it on there, and that was that. That was Monday about 4 p.m. Okay. The next morning, check out of my hotel, get home about 4. First thing I did when I came home was like, oh, let me change this. And when I took the gauze off, I had bumps, big pus bumps, just bruises all over both of my breasts. And so my left breast was the one that was infected and that had the open wound. And I had like a tiny, 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 tiny opening on my right one, but it wasn't really concerning. But I was doing the same thing on both of them, but it was like very tiny. If it was just the right one, it wouldn't even barely been an issue. But I did the same thing for both of them. Both of them had these blisters and pus bubbles all over them. So I'm like, man, what in the world? I immediately picked up the phone and called them, and I'm like, hey, I got this going on. And they were like, oh, sorry, you have to come back. Packed up a bag, packed up my children, and drove out there that day, got a hotel to see him the next morning. I go there the next morning, and he was like, this is your fault because you've been using those pads. And so I don't believe you should fuss with your doctor because, they can really kill you if they want to. So I didn't say nothing. And so I'm like, okay, so what are we going to do? So he was like, stop using the peroxide. Start using Dakin. And he said, I'm sending you some Dakin to your pharmacy. And he showed me he said, look at this. Do basically the same thing with the Dakin solution that I was supposed to be doing with the peroxide. And I said, I was just here the other day, Monday, because this was Wednesday. I said, and I was supposed to go home, but I decided not to. I said, the only thing that I did different was use the peroxide. I said, but before I had been using those pads. And he was like, well, that's what caused it, the pads. I said, well, I don't understand how if all I did different was use the peroxide. And he said, well, it's basically like it was building up to happen or whatever. And I was like, that just don't make sense to me. If all I did differently was use peroxide, why now would this happen when for weeks I've been using the hydrochloric pads and I haven't had any problems? And he was like, it was the pads. It's your fault. I told you not to use them. And so every time he was in there, his nurse was in there with me. So I look over at her and she just looking like, oh, Allah. And I said, I just ain't say nothing. So he just kept saying it was my fault. That was that. I went home. And it just was bothering me a lot because I'm like, I don't understand how I only did one thing different and this happened. It don't make sense. And it just bothered me. I kept hearing him in my head. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. I told you not to use it. And I'm like, this man definitely knew I was using these things and was okay with it. But anyway, I did my own little research and I started looking online, looking at these medical things, medical journals, you know, articles, all this stuff. And it was decided years ago that for one, you should not use wet to dry dressing, which is what he had me doing. Soak the peroxide and soak the gauze in peroxide, put it on there, change it a couple times a day, wet to dry. He told me basically let the gauze dry so that it pulls off the white stuff. That's not recommended. It was not recommended literally for like 20, 30 years, like in the 90s. And also peroxide has been like 20, 30 years not recommended, especially not for open wounds. Like it's literally not even recommended at all. So I was armed with that information and that was that. So that Friday, they called me. That's when they called me and told me like, oh, you have this came back. You need to take this medicine. And I went and got it that Saturday, the one I was talking about. And then that following Monday, I had a doctor's appointment and I just felt like I shouldn't go to this appointment. And I never felt that way before. I felt like I didn't feel like driving out there, but I was having like anxiety about going to the appointment. And I never felt that way before. Like I said, I would feel like, man, I don't feel like this drive, but never like anxious. Like I couldn't go to sleep that night. Something was just like, don't go to the appointment. And so I said, I'm not going because I need to follow my gut. So I called that Monday morning and I told the doctor, I called him. I said, hey, something came up. I'm not gonna be able to come in. So the lady was like, hold on, let me go talk to the doctor real quick. The nurse, she's like, cause he really needs you to come in. And you need to stop taking that medicine. I was like, the one y'all just called in Saturday that I just paid for? And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, this is crazy. So she said, hold on. So she got the doctor on the phone and he was like telling me that I need to come in because he needed to cut off. Like at that point, it was like a tiny little bit of white froth, little stuff that needed to come off. And he needed to cut it out. And so I was like, I don't know about that. And he kept saying, you know, I told you not to use them pads. I told you not to use those pads. And I was just like, I didn't say anything. So they was like, we need you to come in. So I went in the next day. I knew I shouldn't have went. I go in. This man kept saying how it was my fault. He told me to use the pads. I said, listen, you've been saying this the whole time. I don't believe in fussing with doctors. I don't want to fuss with you, but that's not true. And I looked at the nurse and I was like, you've been in here every time he talked to me. You know, this man told me I can use these. I said, you told me you don't recommend it because people can't afford it, but it works. I said, you know, I was using this for years. I mean, for weeks or whatever. And I was like, I said, and also I did some research and I found out that you don't supposed to use this peroxide or wet to dry dressing. And he was like, oh, that's old research. That's old medical journals, that outdated information. I was like, no, it's not. And I was explaining to him everything that I studied and stuff. And he was just trying to disregard it. So I was like, so he said, well, I need you because in his office, I had surgery in the hospital, but he does like tummy tucks and different stuff in his office. So he has like a whole area in his office where he does procedures and stuff. So he's like, well, the nurse is about to come in here and you about to go into this room and we're going to cut this thing off. It needs to be debrided or whatever. And I was just sitting there and I was like, I just don't feel comfortable with that. And he was like, well, I'm your doctor. This man was cursing me out. Oh, I forgot to mention. My doctor cursed me out the day after my surgery. So I was under the impression that I was supposed to have a bra that opens up in the front. And the day after my surgery, this is just a side note. I know I'm going all over the place. But day after my surgery, and you know, I went for my post-op on that Friday. And my doctor was like, so he was saying, where's the bra, you know, that you're supposed to bring? Because, you know, when after you first had the surgery, you don't have on a bra, you like wrapped up or whatever. So I had it in the bag and I was like, oh, here you go. And he was like, what the F is this? I cannot make this up. I'm not lying to you. He was like, what the F is this? And he was like, I told you to get one that scraps in the back. And I was like, I'm sorry. I thought you said get one in the front. And so my friend had to go to Walmart and get another one or whatever. He did apologize. Not that makes it better, but he was just like, I'm sorry. It's just, I shouldn't have talked to you like that and blah, blah, blah. So that's just a side note. But anyway, back to that appointment. He was like yelling at me and telling me if he's not, that he's the doctor and if I'm not the doctor and if I can't trust his expertise and I need to find a new doctor and all the stuff like that. And I was thinking to myself, I do need to find me a new doctor. So I didn't know where I was going to go. And I was very uncomfortable about, you know, having an open wound and not having a doctor, not being under anyone's care. But I knew like this was not the doctor for me. So he was like, well, either I'm gonna go in that room and let them do that or not. And I chose not. So he literally told me to wait. When I would be talking, he would be like, I can't listen to this. He would walk out the room and stuff. And so he was like, you know, I can't listen to this and you're not listening to me. He would walk out and walk back in and stuff. So it all ended with him giving me my medical records and telling me, you know, that was it. That was in our little relationship, doctor-patient relationship. And I was like, okay. So anyway, so I came home and I found a wound care doctor that is in my area. So that was good because I didn't have to travel anymore. I'll be right back. Let's wrap this up. So I found a doctor in Ring. I did need the debridement. He was right. So I had to have another surgery on another Thursday in August. So, but that wasn't a bad surgery at all. It was like a very short surgery, not even really like a recovery. It was just quick, smooth. They debrided it. And then, like I said, I used a lot of Polymem. If you have an open wound, Polymem helps a lot. My doctor, he would say little things, my surgeon, and I would get them. Like, he would say stuff. Like, I remember when the white part was still there, he would be like, well, maybe in a couple of weeks you can start trying Polymem. It's kind of expensive, but you can get it off Amazon, blah, blah, and maybe medical grade honey. I would get the stuff before he told me. Because, I would look it up first and see the benefits, and I was like, I should be using this stuff now. So, I had Polymem coming like every week or two from Amazon and medical grade honey. So after the debridement, that was in August. It's November now. It was kind of smooth sailing. Like, my wound care doctor, they were nice. But I felt like they were very neglectful. Like, every single appointment I asked them, can you swab my breast? Can you swab my breast? I want to make sure it's not infected. Because actually what ended up happening is like my breast would start hurting. And that's how I knew something was wrong, because I didn't even have pain after the surgery. And then I would start having pain, or my breast would like swell up. And so I would be like, I think this thing is swollen. And one time, this was after my surgery. So I had, and I'm sharing this just so, like, you know, follow your mind, follow your first mind. You have to advocate for yourself. This surgery has definitely shown me how you have to advocate for yourself. So I had an infection. I went to my doctor, to the wound care doctor for the first time. I can't remember what day it was, but I know what the date was, but I know it was a Thursday. And I went there, and so they said, you know, we got to do a debridement. This was the first time I saw wound care. And they said, can you come back in tomorrow on Friday? The surgeon will be here, and maybe he can do it in office, and we'll see. So I was like, yeah. And I asked them, could they swab my breast? Then I said, I just want to make sure it's not infected. So they swabbed it. I went in that next day. The doctor told me he didn't know how deep it was, so that I needed to have surgery, because he didn't want to like try to do it in the office and it end up being way deeper, and then it'd be a problem. So they scheduled me surgery for that next Thursday. But that following Sunday, I had looked on my chart and I saw that I can't remember what type of infection it was, but it was 2 of them, and it had like the little hazardous sign and said like heavy bacterial loads. So that Monday morning, I called the doctor's office and I was like, hey, I saw, you know, my results on my chart. What medicine do I need for this? And so long story short, nobody was calling me back. I ended up just driving up there, and they were like, okay, you have to take Rocephin. So that was Monday. They said you got to take Rocephin for 3 days in a row. It had to be through an IV or through a shot. And they sent me to the wrong place. Anyway, I ended up having to go to the hospital to get to get it intravenously or whatever. So I had to go there Monday, Tuesday, I went there Monday and Tuesday. And every day I was like, listen, can I go like to somewhere else, like urgent care, some other center, infusion center, any place besides sitting in this hospital all day? So Monday they were like, oh yeah, we're going to work it out. And then Tuesday would come. They didn't work it out. I had to go back to the hospital. And then Tuesday I was like, No, we need to figure something out. I'm not trying to go back to the hospital a third day tomorrow. So they told me I would go to an infusion center, which that didn't work out. People said they couldn't see me for like a week. I'm like, that's not going to work. So they were telling me, you know, I need to have it for those 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. My surgery was that Thursday. So Tuesday, when I was leaving the hospital, my doctor's office called me and said, hey, you know what? The doctor said, don't worry about getting the Rocephin tomorrow, since you have surgery on Thursday. They'll give it to you and go to the hospital. And I was like, well, the doctor seemed very specific that I needed to have this 3 days in a row within like a 24-hour window. The time need to be close, so they want me to go like a whole day without it. And she said, yeah, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. So I was like, okay, it seemed weird to me, but I was like, okay. So I went in for surgery. I forgot all about that. I didn't think about it until after the surgery. And I asked the nurse, I was like, oh, I was supposed to have Rocephin. Did they give that to me? And she looked at my chart. She was like, yep, they gave it to you. But something was like, they did not give you that. So I came home and I looked at my chart, and the medicine they gave me was not that. And I Googled it and everything. It was not that. So the next day, I had sent a message in my chart to the doctor's office, and they were like, oh, it's not the same thing, but it's fine. And something was just like, no, it's not. So that was Thursday. I had the surgery. The next Monday, I started feeling very sick. I was like confused. I felt weak. I just felt like very disoriented. I felt very, very bad. My breast started hurting, and I was like, something ain't right. So that 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was just getting worse and worse and worse. I thought maybe I had COVID. Like, I was just feeling very out of it and bad, like horrible. So Thursday I went to the hospital because I was like, something ain't right. And I was like, this thing probably is still infected because they didn't give me the medicine I needed. I go to the hospital. When I tell you these healthcare professionals are horrible, they be nice, but they be horrible. They don't be doing what they're supposed to do. I go to the hospital. I'm telling the doctor, I was like, I was really asking him, can you swab my breast? I feel like this thing is infected and it's hurting. And he was like, oh, no. Have you ever felt dizzy and disorienting and stuff? I said, no, I never felt this way before. And so he said, I see that you, because you know they got everything in your chart. They know everything about you. He said, I see you had surgery last week. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, I doubt it's infected. You just had surgery. I was like, well, I didn't get the third round of Rocephin that I needed for, and I said, I think it's still infected. Can you swab it for me? So he said, let me go get a female nurse to come in here with me. So the lady came in, and he had me take my bra off, and he looked at it. He said, I'm not gonna lie, it looks really good. You know, I know it's a wound, but it looks good. He said, it doesn't look infected to me. He said, it's your blood work is fine. It doesn't have an odor to it. It looks good, you know, and you're just, everything seems fine. You don't have a fever. And I say, yeah, I said I didn't have a fever before. It's never had an odor, and I've had several infections. I think it's infected. Can you swab it, please? And he was like, well, see, our skin carries bacteria, and if I swab it, something's going to come back because our skin carries bacteria. And I was like, but the wound, like, it's a very large wound. And I said, but the wound is large enough, you wouldn't even need to touch it in my skin. You could literally swab all around it and it wouldn't even touch my skin because the wound is big enough. And he was like, I just don't think it's infected. You know, your blood work. And I said, my blood was fine the first time. I didn't have a fever the first time. Can you please swab it? I begged this man to swab it. He would not swab it. He literally refused, even to the point where I had my discharge papers. And I was like, and I asked the nurse, I was like, can you ask the doctor to come back in? I'm sorry, like, I don't want to bother him, but please. He came in. I was like, I'm so sorry to bother you, but can you please swab this? He was like, I just don't believe it's infected, but you can follow up with your doctor next week. It was infected. Advocate for yourself. These doctors have you dead and be like, oh, it was just things happen, you know, complications from surgery. Yeah, it was infected. I didn't see my doctor for like another week after that. And they swabbed it. And of course, it took days for the results to come back, but it was infected. So anyway, they gave me medicine. And long story short, don't follow up with these doctors. Do your own research, because I could have died if I didn't advocate for myself. And it is November the 7th, as I established in the first clip. And my wound just closed up 2 weeks ago. It was horrible. It was a very traumatic experience, which is, again, why I started not even upload this, because I didn't want to even talk about it. But I know that somebody seeing this, because when you look on YouTube, and I remember looking like bad breast reduction, like searching for all that stuff, you don't really see a lot of videos like that on YouTube. And it wasn't really until I joined like a Facebook group. It's like a breast reduction group that they have on Facebook, which was very helpful, because, you know, you can search certain things like open wound or infection and stuff. It wasn't until I joined those Facebook groups that I saw that like other people are dealing with this, because on YouTube, I remember typing in like, because I know all about the keywords, but nothing was coming up. Everybody was, well, I saw like maybe 1 or 2 videos where one girl, she had to have a wound back, but she said that was because she was smoking. So I don't smoke. And then one other girl said that her breast was infected. They gave her some pills. She was fine. But as far as like what I was going through, I didn't really see any videos about that. And I searched hard. If it's any there, I'm surprised. So I wanted to share this because, you know, a lot of people, most people who have breast reductions are really looking forward to it. Not maybe the pain and stuff, but we're looking forward to having this weight off of our back, based like literally. And this was not what I expected. I didn't think the day would come where I was like, where I would be like, I regret having the surgery. And I kind of do, because I'm not satisfied really with my results. It took up my whole summer in a very bad way. Yeah, it was a bad experience. So advocate for yourself. If something doesn't feel right, say something. And they're not listening to you, go to the hospital. If they won't listen to you, go to another hospital. Like, your life is important, and these doctors don't care about it. And I can say that with confidence because of my experience. I know people say like, oh, they were trying to kill black people. I think they just don't care in general. I don't think it has anything to do with the color of my skin. I think they just don't care. They do this job every day, and it's become like, repetitive to them. They don't care. They don't look at people as people because it's something that they do every day. So they become kind of numb to that, or whatever. That might not be the best word, but you get what I'm saying. So I'm trying to think of anything else that I want to say that happened. My back still hurts sometimes, so there's that. And yeah, I mean, my breasts are smaller. One good thing is, like, it's so crazy. Like, I thought that I wasn't into clothes for a while, like, just not into fashion, which in a sense I'm not. But, like, since I got a breast reduction, I be shopping now for clothes. I will say that. Like, that's a plus. Is because, when you have these big old breasts, they take over your whole body. You don't really feel confident wearing certain tops and stuff. But I have, like, all type of new tops. I'm telling you, so many new clothes. So that's a plus. My chests are smaller. I don't like what I went through, but I know, like, I'm still recovering, actually, even though the wound just closed up. Like, I'm still recovering. I still have to go see a wound care doctor next week. But overall, I'm glad that I'm still here and that the wound has closed up, even though it took forever. It's done. So I guess, within a couple weeks, it'll be like just fully done. I won't have to see this wound care doctor no more because I'm tired of going there every week. Well, every 2 weeks. And if you have questions, let me know. I was going to add pictures of the wound to this video, but I don't know if people want to see that. If you do, let me know. I'll do another video on it. And I don't even know if Facebook allows that. I mean, not Facebook. YouTube allows it. I don't know, but let me know. If you have questions, I will answer them, because I know how important this journey is and how scary it can be. Also very exciting. It's something that a lot of women wait for. This video keep cutting off for whatever reason, but if you have questions, let me know. I will answer them. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you.